Hello everyone, so as promised today we are starting a deeper dive into the freshly released part 1 of the UFO files, which were published on the US Department of War's website on Friday night, well, night EU time more or less. Well, it's more like noon, but wasn't before evening that I could really take a look at those. And those videos will be unscripted, so I will be free-forming about everything really here. And what we are going to do, we are simply going to take a look at mostly the PDF files which have been released. The videos and images from the files can be accessed on the website. I will provide the link to it in the video description and or comments, so you can go and check out for yourself what is actually there in its full glory. I have also published a video which is basically a collage of all the videos published on Friday, and I thought that we could start taking a look at the PDF files, also sort of a read-along for those who prefer listening to the material rather than reading. And let's see what we will discover together, as I have just skimmed over everything really without much time to go into detail into that. So starting from the file which is called a Western US event secured, we've got what I think was originally a PowerPoint presentation of some sorts, and there's an event titled Orbs Launching Orbs, which took place somewhere over the Western US at dusk on 2 separate days. And as we can read, the 3 teams of 2 federal law enforcement special agents each, USPER 1 through USPER 6, independently describe seeing orange orbs in the sky amid launch smaller red orbs in groups of 2 to 4, with 3 being the general consensus. This is stated to have occurred at least 5 times. Each time the orange orb would appear, launch red orbs, and then disappear. The orange orb was only visible for 1 or 2 seconds. The red orbs would generally move away from the orange mother orb in a horizontal path, but in a couple of instances one red orb was stated to move heading up at an angle, while another witness stated sometimes the red orbs would swoop down after being launched from the larger orange orb. These events were witnessed by multiple teams from varying locations and vantage points over a 2-day period. Due to the sequential nature of the events, it is not known whether there was a single orange mother orb that released the groups of red orbs, or whether there were multiple orange orbs at play. So I believe that would be a sighting typical for the orb sighting, described by many people really. There are lots of experiencers witnessing orbs of colored light. There are 2 things that this event reminded me of. First, it is the orb sightings by Chris Bledsoe that you may have heard of. And the second one was the 1976 Tehran or Gizeh incident in Iran, where the aviators from the Iranian Air Force described orbs shooting down from what seemed to be like a mother UFO, lurching towards the ground, towards their own aircraft. So I would believe it's a bit of a similar event. Then we have a large fiery orb, which is presented as an artist rendering, also Western US and also at dusk. 2 federal law enforcement special agents, USPER 5 and 6, so I believe this could be 2 of the people we have heard of a few minutes earlier, witness a glowing orange orb at a distance of approximately 500 to 600 meters, with the note that measurements later gathered by Arrow, so the All Domain Resolution Office, if I remember correctly the full name, assessed the object to have been approximately 1,050 meters away from the observer, so closer to 1,200 yards, where it was perched close to a rock pinnacle. Size was difficult to determine, but it appeared to be similar in size to a small helicopter cockpit. And measurements later gathered by Arrow assessed the object to have been between 12 and 18 meters in diameter. Witnesses were unable to clearly see any structure other than the glowing orb, though USPAR 6 noted that the object did almost appear it might have had a small spindle or something connecting it from underneath to the rock formation. Witnesses stated that the object did not emit any noticeable sound. The object was described as being similar to the Eye or Sick, Sauron from Lord of the Rings, except without the pupil, or maybe an orange storm electrified bowling ball. USPAR 6 stated the object seemed to be hovering with zero resistance or movement, or to be suspended, and that the sighting lasted about a minute. Then we have a dark kite with an image which is a recreation of drawing provided by USPAR 6, so this would be the same two agents, of objects seen in night vision goggles. So this time we have something different. The location is again Western US. The object is called Dark Kite, and this time the sighting took place before dawn. Two federal law enforcement special agents, USPAR 5 and 6, observed what is initially thought to be a car traveling along a road in a restricted zone. The car had two lights, one red and one white, that are about 2 to 3 feet off the ground. Agents pursued the car, and as they got to within a few hundred feet of it, the object suddenly moved off the road over the desert without changing its orientation with respect to the observers. That is, it appeared to move laterally at an estimated speed of 15 to 20 miles per hour. The object didn't change height and appeared to move with zero resistance. The object stopped about 100 meters off the side of the road and turned off its lights. USPAR 6 described the object as a thin line from the back, whereas the other agent, USPAR 6, stated that it almost looked like an ill-defined dark kite shape that had some rounded width to the sides. USPAR 6 used night vision goggles to view the object once it had stopped off the road. The agents stated that they observed the object for a split second in the night vision goggles before the line turned off. And once the lights were off, a very thin line remained, so I believe this is this part in the image here. The object was estimated to be about 4 feet wide and positioned horizontally to the ground. See image. The object then began moving at about the speed of 15 to 20 miles per hour and appeared to move up in height, but remained a flat line. The agent lost sight of the object after a few seconds. And in later discussions with Arrow, the object is described as being triangular, which is again one of the classical UFO shapes at this point. Next we have a transparent kite. Again, it's the Western US. And the time of day is pre-dawn hours. The same agents, USPAR 5 and 6. And about 30 minutes after the dark kite sighting, federal law enforcement special agents, USPAR 5 and 6, returned to the same general area with another colleague, USPAR 7, in response to a report of another unauthorized object in the area. Within a few hundred meters of the dark kite sighting, two of the team members, USPAR 5 and 6, observed a kite-shaped object with a lighting pattern similar to the object seen previously. This object is about 6 meters off the ground, is canted at an angle from lower right to upper left. See image 2, so basically it hovered like that above the ground from what I understand. Some darker point at the top. And I think these were lights, I would presume so at least, and that the outline was not definitive, but location of lights stayed in exact formation, so we can presume it had some solid form or shape. And appeared to be flowing slowly with the wind. USPAR 6 was using night vision goggles when viewing the object, and USPAR 6 used the bare eye. USPAR 7 did not see the object. USPAR 5 stated that in the night vision goggles they could vaguely see a bright star or two in the distance through the object, though somewhat more faint, leading them to believe that the object was somewhat transparent, and this is not entirely unusual in terms of UFO sightings. After losing sight of the object, Asper 5 tried using a spotlight to find it again. The witness noted that when shining the light around, at one point my beam went from shining far into the distance to stopping about 50 yards away on nothing in particular. It was just not projecting into the distance, and then it was. So perhaps some cloaking mechanism was at play, that's at least my guess. When the witness pointed the light at the spot where the light had appeared to be blocked by something, this time the light was projecting into the distance again, and the team was unable to reacquire sight of the object. So to me that would be something like a probe of some sort, probably. Well, anyway, we've got 4 sightings observed by federal FBI agents, so generally considered to be credible witnesses. Now we also have got some statements from federal agents, which is basically the file is named Asper Statement Redacted. It used to be secret, as you can see at the top, but no longer is. And we read that on redacted 2025 at approximately 1700 hours, redacted witness 1, a senior US intelligence official, federal partner 1 and federal partner 2, accompanied by a witness 2, a senior US intelligence official, and 2 pilots from state partner organization departed the redacted operations center at coordinates, redacted facility, main redacted area, via a state partner organization helicopter, call sign 1, to conduct the daytime aerial search of the mountain range name west of site code name on facility. Previous eyewitness reports from personnel who have observed orbs, lights, IVO, and redacted coordinates cited hearing thoughts as if something has fallen and hit the ground. Note, earlier that day the redacted office completed a successful test of the redacted and site code name coordinates on facility. At 1751 hours, redacted call sign 1 spotted a large cavern entrance coordinates and conducted a short orbit of the location, redacted. At approximately 2050 hours, call sign 1 landed west of the redacted mountains and dropped off witness 2 and federal partner 3 personnel. At 2052 hours, redacted call sign 1 headed towards site code name to refuel. A second helicopter, state partner organization call sign 2, briefly landed at site code name to await refueling, but then lifted off and returned to the redacted. At 2141 hours, a redacted call sign 1 lifted off the site code name and headed towards debris spotted by the listening post observation post, so LPOP, federal partner 4 personnel using forward-looking infrared or FLIR and night vision goggles. Position coordinates located approximately 4 miles east of site code name in the mountains at redacted location with coordinates. Call sign 1 orbited the location while searching with night vision goggles, pilots, and the naked eye, witness 1, with the aid of the helicopter spotlight in near full darkness for several minutes with negative results. At approximately 21:49 hours, call sign 1 departed the search location to return to the base and received notification from LPOP that redacted had redacted hits bearing redacted 4 miles out from their location. The GOC then provided coordinates and call sign 1 moved to intercept. At 22:02 hours, call sign 1 arrived off the aforementioned coordinates and spotted a possible aircraft on the horizon moving away to the west. LPOP confirmed the sighting and then relayed they spotted an orb under FLIR and described as super hot, hovering at ground level before heading bearing redacted from LPOP. LPOP reported the orb was heading east and then south at a high rate of speed and then broke into 2 objects. Now this is interesting, I believe. LPOP directed call sign 1 to head south to coordinates to intercept. At 22:07 hours, redacted JOC reported 5 military aircraft from redacted were in the airspace conducting a training mission. Once on station, callsign 1 searched the location with FLIR, night vision goggles and then the naked eye, but did not locate the orb. LPOP reported the orb gained elevation, came within 10 feet of callsign 1, and then headed east to redacted. Callsign 1 moved to intercept, by LPOP reported the orb continued southeast and estimated it to be past road name, but some 20 miles from the current position at redacted. Callsign 1, unable to match speed, broke off pursuit. However, the copilot reported seeing under night vision goggles something emerge from the two objects and then travel in a different direction and a high rate of speed. So basically we have objects which are moving faster than a military helicopter. At 22:18 hours, redacted callsign 1 remained at coordinates awaiting instructions, when the pilots, using night vision goggles and witness 1 naked eye, spotted a swarm of lights, too many to count, moving in all directions but generally located west of redacted and headed south. JOC relayed they contacted the military aircraft who were en route to assist, estimated time to arrival 2 minutes. At 22:27 hours, redacted callsign 1 lost visual of the swarm. At approximately 22:27 hours, redacted possible out of order, in proximity of site code name, headed south. Witness 1 using naked eye and the pilots using night vision goggles spotted 2 large orbs appear in close proximity to callsign 1 to the west and above the rotor disc, so I believe this was really close to the aircraft. From the naked eye perspective, the 2 orbs appeared to flare up and remain stationary side by side. They appeared to be oval-shaped, orange in color with a wider yellow center and emitting light in all directions. After a few seconds, a 3rd orb flared up below the 2 and then another one below that one, until there were 4 or 5 in total below the original 2. After a few seconds, the orbs began to flare down in reverse order while appearing to be stationary until visual was lost. At approximately 22:28 hours, callsign 1 witness 1 naked eye, and the pilot, still using night vision goggles, spotted 4 or 5 orbs, similar to the orbs that were in close proximity to the helicopter, appear to the west over the mountains above the military aircraft. The orbs flared up one at a time in a horizontal formation and after approximately 10 to 15 seconds flared down in the opposite order. At approximately 22:33 hours, redacted callsign 1 witness eye naked eye and the pilots using night vision goggles spotted a similar orb formation to the east in the direction of nearby town name. The orbs flared up one at a time in a horizontal formation and after approximately 10 to 15 seconds flared down in the opposite order and lost visual. At approximately 22:41 hours, callsign 1 witness 1 and again naked eye and the pilots in night vision goggles spotted a similar orb flare-up west of site code name over the mountain. After several seconds, the orb flared down and lost visual. At 22:49 hours, redacted while positioned IVO in view of, I believe, site code name, callsign 1 witness eye 1 with naked eye and the pilots using night vision goggles spotted a swarm of lights moving in all directions west of redacted with 3 distinct orbs in a triangle formation. After several seconds, the orbs flared down and lost visual. At 22:52 hours, redacted while positioned approximately 10 miles north of site code name, callsign 1 witness 1 naked eye and the pilots using night vision goggles spotted 5 to 6 orbs flare up in view of local town east of site code name. The orbs flared up one at a time in a horizontal formation and after approximately 10 seconds flared down in the opposite order and lost visual. At 22:57 hours, redacted while positioned approximately 10 miles north of site code name, call sign 1, witness 1, naked eye, and the pilots using night vision goggles spotted 4 orbs flare up over the military aircraft as they descended to land at redacted. The orbs flared up one at a time in a horizontal formation, and after approximately 10 seconds flared down in the opposite order and lost visual. At approximately 23:06 hours, call sign 1 redacted, so we don't know what happened, and at 23:16 hours, the redacted low on fuel, call sign 1 returned to the operations center. At approximately 23:20 hours, call sign 1 headed south for the operations center, and already in air-to-air contact with Federal partner aircraft, passed each other as Federal partner aircraft headed north towards site code name. Witness 1 comments, redacted. Pilots indicated they were recording, however many sightings were above the helicopter, which was outside of the helicopter's FLIR camera angle. Some things I could not see with the naked eye, but I recall the pilots calling out sightings. The orbs appeared to break off from call sign 1 and pursue the military aircraft. So there it was, quite a busy night for those people, and quite an odd and repeated orb formation sighting all over the place nearby these facilities. Next we have some testimonies of FBI agents, I believe. This one is dated to October 2023. There are lots of redactions that you can see, but there's still some text that we can read, so let's give it a go. On September in 2023, redacted and FBI Special Agent redacted interviewed someone via FaceTime video. Redacted with redacted sat in on the interview. And again, there are probably 2 people were in redacted at the time of the interview. After being advised of the identity of the interviewing agents and the nature of the interview, redacted provided the following information. Redacted was a redacted in the redacted of redacted. He'd been an, I would presume, some form of a military personnel probably, since redacted, and had 10 to 15 hours as a drone pilot. On September 2023, the redacted was at redacted location with 3 other contractors and redacted for LiDAR tests with redacted. After receiving a redacted, the 5 of them got into 3 vehicles with redacted driving the first vehicle and redacted as her passenger. The 3 vehicles began driving south around 7:30 a.m. The sun was in the east with good visibility. The 3 vehicles came to a gate that was giving redacted trouble. At about 3/4 of the windshield up, redacted saw a linear object with a super bright light on the east side of the object. The light was bright white and bright enough to see bands within the light. The object was metallic or gray in color. It did not have any wings or exhaust. The object was smaller than a 737, 1 to 2 Black Hawk helicopters in length, and was definitely bigger than a drone. The object was approximately 5,000 feet above ground level and moved east to west parallel to the ground. The object was visible for 5 to 10 seconds, and then the light went out and the object vanished. The sky was clear and redacted couldn't find the object again. The object stayed the same size and kept the same light intensity during the time redacted observed it. He did not see the object as they were coming over the small bridge at the gate until they were going through the gate. Redacted did not notice any interference with their vehicles. Redacted was annoyed when she first saw the object because the airspace had been restricted for the drone tests they were going to conduct. Redacted in the second vehicle tried to get redacted to see the object but was unsuccessful. That night a storm came through and the TV went out in the hotel room. He was still freaked out and went downstairs to make sure all the TVs were out in the hotel and not just his. Redacted had weird dreams and had trouble sleeping for the first 2 nights after he saw the object. So basically we have a situation where people heading out for some military testing of drones or something along those lines saw some weird object emitting light with enormous intensity, and they seem to be rattled by the sighting for at least some time afterwards. There are 2 more files, so let's see what they say. So there is again a FBI investigation from October 2023, and once again on September redacted 2023. Redacted and redacted and redacted, and the FBI special agent redacted interviewed someone from some office and cell in building redacted. Some redacted people and the supervisor sat in on the interview. After being advised of the identity of the interviewing agents and the nature of the interview, the redacted provided the following information. The redacted had been I presume these are some positions that the person held, at redacted for redacted years. On redacted September 2023, the person was with redacted contractors working on a special project with redacted. She had restricted the airspace in redacted for the upcoming test. I presume it's the same person who was mentioned in the previous report. I think that these may actually be like testimonies of the same people who saw the same event. At 7:02 a.m., the contractors received the base's standard redacted brief, got into 3 vehicles. I believe these are the same people, and began driving to the site they were going to use for testing. Redacted drove the first vehicle with redacted as the front passenger. Redacted contractors, again redactions, were in the second and third vehicles. Between 7:15 and 7:30 a.m., redacted drove down probably some road to a gate that restricted access to part of the redacted. Redacted attempted to open the gate remotely using a fob. The gate opened just a little and then closed on 3 separate tries. On the 4th attempt, the gate opened completely and stayed open. There were no prior operational problems with that particular gate, and there were no operating issues with the gate after September redacted. As redacted was driving through the gate, she looked up and saw a cigar-shaped object with an extremely bright light southwest of them, approximately 500 to 3,000 feet above the nearest tree line. Agent note: the tree line was approximately 1 mile southwest of redacted position. The object was already there when she looked up. The object was almost hovering, slowly moving from east to west. The light was an intense diamond white light with what appeared to be a ring around the light, and was located on the eastern end of the object. The light was pointing southeast, and looking at the light, was like looking into the sun. The object was metallic bronze in color and was the length of 2 or 3 Black Hawk helicopters lined up nose to tail. The width of the object was approximately the width of 1.5 Black Hawks, but was hard to determine due to the light on the object's eastern end, which may have been obscuring part of the body. The object was completely silent. Redacted was initially annoyed when she saw the object because she had restricted the ranges for the tests they were going to conduct that morning, but then she realized the object was not an aircraft or drone. Redacted inched her vehicle forward while she and Redacted watched the object. They watched the object for 5 to 10 seconds, and then the object just disappeared. The sky was clear with no clouds, and the object did leave, I believe this should read, didn't leave any contrails. Redacted and Redacted searched the sky but did not see the object again. Redacted did not notice any interference with her vehicle's engine while the object was visible. Now it makes me wonder if the people were asked about the behavior of their vehicles, because some UFOs are known to cause combustion engines to stall. if people like myself know this, I believe that people from the FBI who are involved in such investigations know the same. She only observed the one object and felt it left when it saw them, which is quite possible. UFOs are fairly famous for doing exactly that. So Redacted drove to the test site where Redacted, who was a passenger in the second vehicle, said he saw the object too. Redacted would not have reported the object if she had seen it by herself. Several of her coworkers subsequently made fun of her due to her report. So we have the stigma and generally the trivialization of UFO sightings. No photos or video of the objects were taken by Redacted or the contractors. Well, this is fairly obvious. If the whole sighting lasted like 5 to 10 seconds, I don't think they would have the time or even think about recording that. Redacted had seen most of the aircraft and drones used by the US military during her 15 years working at Redacted, and had never seen anything like the object she observed. Well, this is basically my whole point, that you can dismiss a lot of sightings, because obviously people sometimes see things which are perfectly prosaic and fairly easy to explain. But when you have people like here, so the lady had like 15 years of experience, and then you have pilots like Alex Dietrich, David Fravor, Chad Underwood, and the radar operators from USS Nimitz like Kevin Day or Ryan Graves. If you watched the 2023 AP hearing, you heard his testimonies as well. I mean, those are people who have seen in the air basically everything there is to see, and they would not mistake anything like a drone or a balloon or a helicopter or whatever it could be. Well, I mean, any standard aircraft for a UFO and vice versa, obviously. So this is why I believe that these testimonies are important, despite the fact that they do not provide like a photo or a video or something like that. Alright, so let's move on to the last of these testimonies. So again, we have the same intro, October 2023, ended on September 2023, Redacted, with an FBI special agent interviewed someone via a FaceTime video. After being advised of the identity of the interviewing agents and the nature of the interview, Redacted provided the following information. There's a lot of redactions first, so I believe this is someone talking probably about where they are employed and what is their position and so on. On September Redacted 2023 and around 9 a.m. Redacted was at Redacted driving east to a test site to acquire data for LiDAR testing with Redacted and Redacted. Were driving an F-150. Redacted was behind them driving a GMC 84 with Redacted as his passenger. Redacted was behind them driving a Sprinter van. The vehicles drove through a couple of gates and Redacted saw a bright light over the horizon. The light was stationary in the air, then started moving to the right and then disappeared. Redacted could see the light through the top right of the vehicle's windshield. The light was bright light and was visible for 10 seconds before it disappeared. The light stayed the same size throughout the incident. Redacted thought the light was 10 to 20 miles away. Redacted did not notice any interference with his vehicle, so yeah, like we said, there's again, I don't know if this was a question asked by the FBI or not, but everyone stresses the fact that the vehicles continued running as normal. Redacted pointed the light out to Redacted. By Redacted looked in the wrong direction. Redacted was also tall and had his seat leaned back, so he was not in a good position to see the light. Redacted was indifferent to the light until they got to their first test site, and Redacted saw they saw it too, so somebody probably tried to hide the fact that they saw the strange object, which is not surprising, especially given that those people are military or military contractors. So again, we have some redactions, and Redacted thought the light might have been a meteor coming straight toward them and burning up in the atmosphere. Maybe this was the same person who did not want to admit they saw something weird. Or maybe that person had some previous experience personally, or maybe someone from their unit or someone else representing a military contractor or what have you faced the ridicule and the stigmatization which is often associated with UFO sightings. So yeah, as you can see, the UFO files contain not just videos, not just pictures, but also testimonies. I believe that there is a fairly famous picture of the UFO which looks indeed like a bronze tic-tac, more or less. It may be related to this particular case because it seemed to appear from a very bright light. It's mentioned that it was visible for some brief time and then vanished, which would more or less correspond to the testimonies here. So, what do you think about all of that we have read today? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll be happy to engage. Like I said, I think that these are fairly standard UFO sightings, if one could say anything about an anomalous phenomena. But obviously I can imagine that for those people who are often, well, very grounded individuals after all, because I believe that people working in the military have been of a very sound mind and like grounded people in control of what they do and so forth and so on. And then seeing something very unusual may have been a sort of a test, obviously not necessarily, it's not like a test they were subjected to on purpose, but it's just challenged their perception, their probably some views, or yeah. I think that the next video will be dedicated to some briefings which were related to the Apollo missions to the moon. There are some documents about the Gemini 7 mission as well. Those are also accompanied by some high-resolution photos from the moon, which I believe would also be worth taking a look at. So I will end this video, and at the very end of it I will show you the picture of the object which I think is the one we have just talked about. So I will be very soon with another video, maybe even tomorrow if time allows. We'll see how it goes, and we'll take a look at another part of the files. And thank you for watching this one. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and take care. See you soon.